So an American college student has been sentenced to 15 years of hard labor for drunkenly trying to steal a sign from a hotel. Now you're seeing here a picture of Otto Warmbier, who is a student at the University of Virginia, and he was sentenced after a trial that lasted about 1 hour. Now we have some pretty bizarre video from the AP following this sentencing that I want to show you guys. Take a look. Now, obviously, his movement there does look pretty bizarre, and I want to give you guys some context for why he is being sentenced to these 15 years of hard labor. Now, he was charged with subversion under Article 60 of North Korea's criminal code. The court held that he had committed a crime pursuant to the U.S. government's hostile policy towards the North in a bid to impair the unity of its people after entering it as a tourist. Now, Warmbier had said he tried to steal a propaganda banner as a trophy for an acquaintance who wanted to hang it in her church. Now, this church is the Friendship United Methodist Church in Wyoming. And in a tearful statement that Warmbier made before his trial, he told a gathering of reporters in Pyongyang he was offered a used car worth $10,000 if he could get a propaganda banner. And he was also told that if he was detained and didn't return, so he knew this was an option, that $200,000 would be paid to his mother in the form of a charitable donation. And to kind of put this even more in context for you guys, his family is suffering from severe financial difficulties. There are some other sort of factors that people are making assumptions about. He was trying to get into a secret society at his school back in the U.S. And obviously all of this is I think, particularly important following Obama's executive order to kind of increase the sanctions against North Korea.
So I have a lot of thoughts on this, but first, do we know exactly how he was there right now?
Yeah, so he went on a New Year trip, and you're actually allowed to be a tourist in North Korea, and there's certain sort of, the U.S. obviously would like to dissuade people from doing that, and they have the, that's on the list of places not to go. But he went as a tourist during a New Year trip, and some hotels do offer some tourist areas within the establishment that he was staying at. I guess he got drunk one night. Allegedly got drunk and allegedly tried to steal this sign, and that's where we are now.
Well, all right, so when I looked into this story, right, I understand that, for one, I don't imagine that it was a very diplomatic court hearing, right? The way I imagine a North Korea court hearing is kind of like The Dark Knight Rises, where Scarecrow brings out the victims and just sits them down like it's either death or exile through death, right? So I don't imagine they're going to, like, not to that extent, but nonetheless, one thing that has to be brought up is, all right, you're going to be discouraged from going to somewhere like North Korea, right, where the tensions are so high at the moment with the sanctions that are in place. But when going, like, you need to be sensitive to some of these issues. And North Korea is not the only example, right? So specifically talking about Americans going to other countries, and there may be things in other countries culturally that they don't understand, right? But you got to observe them and try not to do anything that could put yourself in jeopardy. I remember in the Coliseum, the two American girls from California thought it'd be a good idea to describe their name in amongst the Coliseum. And I'm like, come on, like, you got to understand that different cultures are not going to be, obviously, find that as funny or as a joke. And specifically in North Korea, where it's so hostile, and they're not going to take that into consideration. They're going to take into the fact that it's just a mistake. And everyone makes mistakes. Trust me, I understand that. But that's where it's a tough story to look into.
Yeah.
Well, I got mixed feelings on it, but go ahead.
So I agree with you to an extent, and that was kind of my first takeaway from this story, is that a lot of the times you can travel to a country where maybe you disagree with their politics or the way that things are going on. But, we've had this discussion before on the show that you still need to sort of respect their laws, respect their culture and things like that, because these sorts of situations can happen. And I looked into what hard labor would look like in North Korea. And obviously it involves just 12 to 15-hour workdays, really hazardous working conditions. They're on a diet of corn and salt. They get one set of clothes for the entire time that they are in, in this process of their sentencing. And many die actually of malnutrition because they're only being fed corn. So that was my initial thought, is like, okay, he should have been respectful. Like, dude, like, you knew you were going to North Korea. But then I watched the video of him pleading for them to give him a pardon. and he's crying, and I looked at his birthday, and he's the same age of my sister, and like my sister's a smart girl, but like we all make mistakes, and it broke my heart. Like I started tearing up because he went to North Korea, and then it's complicated by the matter that he was promised that maybe he would get money for doing this act, and he's in severe financial troubles. So then I started having mixed feelings about it all.
That's the strangest part of the story. This
Yeah.
story has a lot of weird turns, right? So here's my mixed feelings on it. First of all, yeah, I'm with Francis. A lot of time Americans go places, and in Rome they write their name into the Colosseum and they think, ha ha. And then when they get busted for it, they're like, whoa, whoa, I'm American.
Yeah.
I'm an American is not an answer to committing a local crime, right? So, no, you still have to deal with the consequences of the local laws. Now, in Rome, I think most people are going to say that's not a good answer. Now, in North Korea, it is...
The worst answer.
Yeah, it's not it's not one of the worst governments in the world. It's probably the worst government in the world. So I'm not respecting their laws. The law saying that you can't take down a propaganda poster and you're going to get 15 years in hard labor is an atrocious, horrific law. But if I'm there, I'm going to be pretty careful not to violate that law. Not because it's a just law, but because of the consequences that it can have. So at the same time, I'm with Hannah that you look at that kid wobbling around there, you're like, Jesus Christ, what did they do to him?
Right.
Right? He's a 21-year-old kid, made a mistake, and he's obviously in some sort of different mental state there as they're, carrying him into court. And look, in some of these cases, we never admit it in America, but somebody gets caught in a different country, in a country that's hostile to us. Some of them are CIA. But we never say it. We get outraged. Oh my God, an American has been caught. How dare the terrible government in Iran or wherever, right? This kid's 21. He's not CIA. He didn't even graduate college, right? So his story is definitely real, except for the super weird part about your family's going to get $200,000 if you get caught. Who the hell would say that?
Right.
So that's the thing to really investigate, because if someone put him up to it, then you got to wonder who the hell has put him up to it.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is, we got to get him out. We got to bust our ass to get him out, because he is an American. North Korea is a terrible government, and look at what they're doing to him. We got to do our best to try to get him out. Now, that's probably going to cost us.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay? And so that's what drives me crazy about the whole tourist industry to North Korea.
That's what I was going to say. Is like, because this isn't the first time that we've seen this. I mean, how many cases have we seen of people being imprisoned in North Korea? Like, obviously, the most famous case of unduly and Laura Ling, where Bill Clinton went, of course, and basically got them out, is the price of allowing people to go and discover. Because, by the way, I'm not going to completely shoot it down straight away and be like, oh, why would anyone go to North Korea? Like, people are curious as to something that they don't really understand. North Korea is a curious nation, like how they go about their business, that without internet, without access to basically the outside world that we're used to. It is curious to go and see. But does that come at too much of a cost to put forward this tourist industry, to put forward these people and place them in risk if they're going to go forward and do stupid things? That's where it kind of outweighs it for me. Is it worth that risk? Because this is, as you mentioned, going to cost us. It's going to cost us even more so because tensions are so high at the moment.
Right.
We've got their dictator basically stating that I think it was a 4th nuclear test they ran. They've now got more sanctions placed on them than ever before. Tensions are high. It's not the best time to be doing something like this, probably the worst.
Yeah, I think you bring up something really important there, bringing up the Yuna and Laura Ling. So obviously Bill Clinton could bail them out there. And in the past, when people have been detained in North Korea, it's taken really high-ranking U.S. officials to get them out. Also, the Swedish embassy in Pyongyang has kind of intervened. But obviously with the diplomatic relations right now between the U.S. and North Korea, we don't know if that's necessarily an option for Otto.
So I want to go further than you guys on this one. Don't go to North Korea. Don't be an idiot, okay? So I get your curiosity. Go to Francis' homeland. Go to Scotland. Lovely place. Plenty of things to be curious about, okay? Because if you go to North Korea, one, you can do 15 years of hard labor for taking down a poster. Don't be stupid, right? Second of all, they're motivated. They're incentivized to get you, okay, if you do any slight thing wrong. Because what are we going to have to do now? Sending Bill Clinton ain't going to solve it this time.
Right.
We're going to have to negotiate on sanctions, okay? Now that gives North Korean government, the worst government on the planet, leverage that they use against their own people. So, God damn it, don't go because you think it's fun to go to North Korea and you're such a badass. Well, you're not that bad, right? And yes, because we're decent people and we're Americans, we're going to come to try to rescue you. That's why don't put all of us in that terrible situation. Don't harm the North Korean people more by going and peering at them like they're in a zoo and get your kicks off of it, because it's incredibly dangerous, and you